Hello guys, welcome to episode 3 of making the online Pokemon game series in GameMaker. As promised, this time I'm going to be closing this inspector because it's kind of annoying. I don't think I need it. No, we're going to be making a better UI system, a kind of a debugger system. Not really debugger, but a way to display stuff essentially. So in order to do this, I'm going to create a new folder here, create group. We'll call it I want to call it utility. We'll create two. We'll create one for utility and another one for debug. The reason for the utility is I need to create a special script in here, and I tried to make this bigger. I don't know if it looks better. I increased about like 25%, maybe even less, 12%. So hopefully this UI is better. But yeah, so we need to create a text function in here to make it so that we can easily draw text better. So we'll do, that is not what I meant to click. Alt-C to create a new script. We will call it render text. This will be a basic drawing text thing. And I will be creating a new font. So right click create, I think just Alt-F, but just in case, Alt-F, we'll say FUI. So this is going to be a font, whatever you really want this font to be, should be fine. I'm going to do Roboto. Don't know why, it's usually what I use. I have it downloaded, so you might, if you want it, you'll have to download it. This is basically, I passed it, didn't I? A, B, C, D, F, G. Anyway, Roboto. This is what Android uses for their fonts mainly, so that's kind of why I got into it. I'm going to make this really big, so we'll make it 100. Looks pretty good. Bigger the better, as I say. I don't know how proper the way I scale our text is, but it always looks good to me, so I don't really care too much. So the first thing we'll need is the X and Y position and the, get rid of those comments, XY position, the text itself, and the height of the text. So this is how we're going to render text wherever we want. So the main crux of this function is draw text transformed. And then we just need to provide the arguments for it. Let me make this smaller so I can see the bottom here, which shows the values that you need. So what we need to do is create a variable here called scale. So how much are we going to scale this down by? And the function for scale, the way I remember it, is always it's what you want it to be divided by what it actually is. So what we want the scale to be, what we want the size to be, is height. And we divide it by what is the current height of it. And the current height of it is, well, we don't know yet. So we're going to do a draw set font FUI, and then I'm going to say var current h equals string get height, I believe it is called. Get height. Where would it be? Is it one of these? I swear it was string get height. Display get height, sprite get height, surface texture tile map window. Draw get. What if I just search up height? Is there variables? Something here, I swear. Okay, it's been a long time. String height? It's just string height? Is that all? I don't know the difference between. Okay, so string height. It's just called string height apparently, not get height. Close enough. Anyway, this is going to be text. So this is the current height of the string. So we will do current height. Height divided by the current height. What you want divided by what it is. And next thing we need to do is some alignment issues. We could have provided this in here. But I think it's just fine if I just do X, Y, text, scale, and the angle will be 0. This should be fine. I can test this out under the network control. Instead of doing draw text here, I can say render text. The height will just be, I don't know, 32 pixels tall. If we run this, and we'll have to connect a client for it to actually do anything, unfortunately. Execute. It should say, okay, it looks a little bigger now. That's good. 32 might not be big enough. I'll probably make it like 50 in the end, but that doesn't matter right now because right now we need to deal with the debugger. So here we're going to create a new class called debug, and we'll make this a singleton again, just like before. So underscore debug. This is a constructor. We need to create a macro called debug, and it'll be called underscore get debug. Let's create that function. Function underscore get debug. Oops, debug. Static d equals new underscore debug, and return d, and that should be everything for the for the singleton. I probably should have named these like something different, like because now I have a macro named debug and a script named debug, but I think that's fine. So for now we'll create a new variable called messages inside this class. It'll be an empty array, and we can do an array list, right? ds create ds list create. I guess a ds list will be fine. And then we'll store it with objects. So we'll create something here called log equals a function, and we'll do a message. And let's rename this. Actually, we'll have a log, but we'll actually create one called make message, and that's going to be a function message, and we're going to provide it with an RGB value because I want to add in colors to this, so it's not just print out white, 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 white. So we'll add in some coloring into this. It'll make it look a lot better, in my opinion. So yeah, make message color, or the name, and the RGB. And here we'll just say messages dot. We need to do it in a function, don't we? ds list add to the messages, and I'm gonna add in an object. So you do curly braces, and you should be able to add an object. We'll say txt, and that's going to be the message. The R is going to be R, G will be G, and B will be B. And the way you do this is you just do the name of the key colon the value. So I can separate this for you guys, I guess. So we have the name, which is R, colon, and the value is R. These are separate things, so I could rename this to red, green, blue, and that'll be fine. This is just the name that we want to reference it by, which I'll do this. It's a little more clear for you guys. Anyway, now we want to do draw we'll create a function called draw. We'll call it draw log equals a function. I'm going to do an X and a Y position, and I will give it a height, I guess. We'll give it a height. Yeah, I was going to say maybe we can provide a default value, but I think, the default value will be -1. So equals -1. So if we don't provide anything, it'll be -1, and that way I can say at the very start, if height equals -1, we will say height equals room height. So basically the default height is the height of the room. Otherwise you can specify the height yourself. We'll do the same with the width. width equals -1. So we can provide a width and a height. Copy and paste that, so the same thing. Width, if width is -1, then width will be equal to the room width. So this is going to draw all of the messages that we provide. So we'll provide it with width and height. The default values are the room width and the room height. So you can provide a specific width and height, but you don't have to. I'm trying to think about how we could do this in a more methodical way, but I'm not sure really the best way to do this. I'm kind of winging it right now. I was going to do it one way, but I'm completely changing it now. So we're going to do this with surfaces because I'm a little crazy. So static surface, and I don't need to provide a surface outside of this function, so that's why I'm doing it here instead of like creating a variable called surface. So we'll say static surface equals null, or sorry, no one, and I will say if not surface exists, surface, and so this is going to be where we recreate the surface. So I will say surface equals surface create. The width will be width and the height will be height. That should be fine. And I'm going to start at the bottom and draw them upward. So we'll need to redraw this surface. So I will say draw set surface. And actually, I need to do this outside of the if statement. So draw set surface. How do you set the surface? Surface set target. There we go. It's been a while, okay, guys. Surface set target to the surface. Surface reset target at the very end to go back to the normal drawing target. And here I'm going to do draw clear. And I need a color because I think, yeah, we need to provide a color. We'll make this make color RGB. We'll do 25 for the RGB to make it a little dark. That should be fine. That'll make the entire surface one solid color and erase the previous messages as well. So now we need to actually provide the messages. So we need to iterate through the messages and draw them one at a time. So for var I, now we're not going to start at 0 because we need to move backwards. So we need to start at the end of the array list and move upwards. So we're going to say var I equals ds list size of messages, and we need to subtract 1. I is greater than or equal to 0, and then I minus minus. So this is an inverted for loop. It works the same way, except it's going to start at the end and move upwards instead. So what we're going to do is I'm going to now render text. We need the position. Yeah, so what is the position of this actually? So the position will be var delta y equals, and we'll just say height. So we're going to start the y position at the height, and we'll create a var size equals 50. We want each line to be 50 pixels, so delta y will start at height minus size, so that we're starting actually on the screen. And then here, well, actually I don't even need to do that. You'll see why in a second. We'll just start at height. And here under render text, I will say the x position will just be size. The y position will be delta y minus size. Minus size. The text will be ds list get, ds list. How do you get the list at an ID? ds list, right, is insert find. Is it just find? Find value. Yep. Find value. The ID is messages, and the position is I. And the height will be, well, it's actually not height, it's size. In fact, I think I messed some stuff up. No, I guess I got it right. I was using size, that's correct. And before any of this, I need to say delta y minus equals size. The reason why I didn't need to do subtract size up here is because I'm going to put this before we render the text instead of after. So this should be fine. I know it looks like this is a bug, maybe like, oh no, I shouldn't have this there. I should, because that's going to be a little bit of padding. I could have made another variable called padding, and I would have done padding there, but I'll just use the same one. It'll be fine. Right now, everything's going to be white. So let's do draw set color. Ooh, nope, not up there, actually. Actually, there is a couple of issues. Var message equals, we'll call it MSG instead. Var message equals, and I need to do this instead. Instead of doing this, I need to store this in a variable, because remember, this is an object. We are storing an object, so we need to get the text out of there. So if I scroll back down, we'll say, instead of just that, we'll do msg.txt. Is it txt or text? Oh man, I'm not very consistent with my naming, am I? Oh well. Message.text, that should be fine. Then we can do draw set color, then make color RGB, and I'll do msg.red, msg.green, and msg.blue. Okay, that should be fine. Everything should be working now. Of course, we're not drawing any of these messages, so let's get it so we can actually render something. I will do that by scrolling to the very bottom. Wait, where are we? Scroll up here, actually, before we draw a log. And I'm going to say just a function named log. And I'll say equals a function string, or no, you don't provide that. Just message. So I do want this to be lowercase. I thought about making this like capital L. It's up to you how you want to name it. I'll do it this way though. And here I'm just going to say make message. Message, and the color for just a regular log, we'll make it white. So just like that. So this will be our default color for any log message. I can also do an error equals a function message, and I can do the exact same thing, except this time I'm going to make it red by setting the green and blue values to 0, and hopefully that works. Now this should actually be very easy to use. So if I come into my server, way up here, instead of anything like this, instead of saying a message, I'm going to comment this out, or get rid of it. All I have to do now is say debug.log and whatever message I want. Connected a client. We won't need this message anymore up here. And under the O network control, we no longer are going to render this message or this either, actually. Instead, what we will do is I will say debug.drawLog, and I'll just do it at 0, 0 for now. And I just realized I'm missing something. Go back to my debug, where I draw log. Way at the bottom, after we do surface reset target, we actually have to draw the surface. So we created the surface, created or drew stuff to the surface, but now we need to display that surface. So we can just do draw surface. The ID is messages and the X and Y position. That was a lot. I'm sure there's bugs that we'll have to fix, but for now, let's run this and see what happens. Yep, already a bug. Draw surface, messages. Why is that not working? Because it's called surface, not messages. Messages is a array list. So if I run this, it's working so far. If I come to my A/B testing and execute, it actually worked first time. And if I were to execute another one, it should be adding onto the log just fine. Now you'll notice that the screens are gray. For the server, that's fine. For the client, I don't want that. So I can fix this by going into the network control, and I will do an if statement. If is client, I'll do this, otherwise I will do this. So for the server, I'm fine with the width and height being the whole entire screen. The server doesn't really need anything else, but for the client, we'll need to see the rest of the screen, obviously. So for this, I will set it to be, what should I set it to? Var w equals room width and var h equals room height. Let's set it to be 3/4 of the width. Yeah, so width times 3/4. We'll do this here, width and height. So what I'll do is I'll set this to be multiplied by 3/4 and this to be multiplied by, we'll do 1/4 of the height. So if I run this and I come into my A/B testing and execute this, you'll notice the client now has a smaller window. It's not really centered or anything, so we could center that too if we wanted to. That would just be as simple as coming to the width and adding room width minus width and dividing this by 2. I think that's all I need. I'm just swinging this math, so it could definitely be wrong. If I execute, it definitely is, because yeah, no, that should have been for the X position. The X position should be room width minus the width divided by 2. So it should look like room width minus width divided by 2 for the X. The Y can stay at 0. Then we have the width and the height. If I run this and I go to the client and I run this client, there, it's at the center, top center. And it should just draw text up there. The server, it can draw everything as we want it to. I can also show you what it would look like for, I don't know, an error message. How about that? So under the is client, we'll do an if keyboard check pressed vk enter. I can say debug dot error, got an error, something like that. If I run this, run the client. Now if I press enter, ooh, we get an error. That's actually good because I want to know why. So let's see. Let's go to the debug and see what's going on here. Debug dot, well, there's 3 R's in error, which isn't really how you spell it. So let's rerun this now. If I press execute and I press enter, we got an error. And we can press it again and you'll see we get some messages. It looks kind of bad, doesn't it? Little too big for this, but that can all be adjusted pretty easily. I think I didn't provide anything with dealing with size, which I could do. I could provide a size equals 50 here, and then here, instead of having this variable, I remove that. And now under the object network control, when I draw a log, I can provide a size. So I will do height times 1/5. Yeah, that'll be fine. Because basically what that'll do is that'll mean that we can have 5 messages displaying at once on here. More like 4 because there's that space at the bottom, but that should be fine. Anyway, yeah, so this is our logger now, and we can make something where we toggle it on and off, so that should be easy too if we want. We can say show logs equals false. If it's a server, I should say show logs equals true. And in the draw here, I can say if show logs. So I'm only going to do any of this if show logs is true. And here I'm going to say if keyboard check pressed, and we'll do vk f1. show logs equals not. Oh man, sorry if it's too small for you. Not show logs. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to come into my client here, and you'll notice the client isn't displaying any log information up here, but if I press F1 it'll show it, and if I press F1 again it can toggle that on and off. So I can like open the logging messages by pressing F1. All the debugging stuff should still work. If I press the enter button, maybe not. Oh, that's because this is showing up in the wrong place. That's fine. Whatever. The debugging logging should work still, even with the show logs not displaying. It'll still log. It just won't show, if that makes sense. Anyway, this is a long video. A lot of stuff got thrown at you. Hopefully, it all makes sense. I'm sure it doesn't because I didn't really explain much. So maybe I can just quickly go over this debug thing at least. So here we have our make message function. All this does is it's adding a function, or it's adding an object to our list. And that object contains the text of the message itself and the color data. In the log function, all this does is it calls this function and adds a new message guaranteeing that it'll be white. So this will make it so we don't have to provide an RGB. We just say debug.log and it'll make a message that is white. The error does the exact same thing, except instead it'll be red. We can do another thing called success and make this one green, RGB. And now I could write out debug.success and write out some message and it'll be green. The draw logs, this is the confusing one right here, this function. So what it's doing is, first off, it's setting some default values for the width and height. It creates a surface if it needs to. So if the surface doesn't exist for any reason, it'll create the surface. And what it does with the surface is it's going to draw to the surface, which is right here, everything here. And it clears the color with one solid color. And then it iterates through all your messages. It's going to, and it iterates backwards, by the way. And it gets the message, sets the color to whatever the color's message is. It decrements the Y position, so it moves upward. And maybe I should move this down. Maybe I do want it to be a little more flush. So I'm gonna move that down a little bit. Yeah, that'll be fine. Otherwise I could yeah. Anyway, yeah, so it renders the text, which is that function we created, which all it does is draw a text at a certain size. So it's gonna render it, draw it, decrement the size. It stops drawing to the surface and instead draws the surface itself to that position, to the position that we specified. I should have made it so that this works using relative position instead of absolute position. I believe that's the correct term. So like I would be able to provide like a 0.5 and a 0.3 instead of a absolute numeric value, which I will probably do in the future. But right now we're running on 29 minutes. So for now this is fine. It works. That's all that matters. So anyway, that's going to do it. Next time we will be working on more networking stuff, in particular getting messages sent across one client to one server. And now that we have this debugger, we can easily display messages in that debugger that get sent from the client to the server. So that's going to do it. So until next time, guys, I'll see you later.